And we welcome you into another edition of Freshly Grated with Marcello Romano. No James Marilat today. So we went to the bullpen. We called the righty. We said, hey, we need the scrappy one. The scrapper. Will Peterson from DenverSports.com joins us today. I also refer to him sometimes as Wilson Phillips. Just hold on for one more day. Will, what's up, bud?
What's up, man? Did James see a couple inches of snow? Couldn't take the heat? What's going on?
He's taking that Stokely route, huh? Hey, that's the beauty of technology today, is that we're both remote because Mother Nature finally showed up in Colorado. I asked James this question last week. Will, are you more surprised that we hadn't gotten any significant snow yet, or at that point the Broncos, who were 9-2 then, are now 10-2?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go with the snow. You and I have both lived here a long time. Come on, man. We remember Halloween snowstorms. It's December, and we finally get more than a dusting. I don't know what's going on, but knowing Colorado, man, everyone's like, where's the snow? Where's the snow? You won't be asking that question come February or March. I'm guessing today is the first of many snowstorms that are going to hit us over the next 3 months.
That is correct. One of the things I wanted to start off with, Will, was the optics surrounding Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos now. It seems like week to week it has been changing, and then they have the big overtime win against the Commanders on Sunday night. Are we past the point of how it looks? And now, as Broncos country, are we just to the point of accepting a win's a win is a win, and they've done it in all kinds of different fashions, and that's what championship-style teams do?
Well, I mean, listen, I think how it looked on Sunday night was actually important because I think the offense carried the Broncos in that football game. You could make a case the defense played their second or third worst game of the season. I think their worst game was against the Giants and obviously the incredible late 33-32 rally. I think the Colts was probably their second worst and Commanders was third worst. So I'm actually glad that the narrative kind of flipped. I think you can hoist a Lombardi with one dominant side of the football. We've seen that 5 or 6 times over the league's history, but I'm more of a balanced guy at the end of the day. And the fact that we can sit here a couple of days removed and say, hey, they won on Sunday in large part due to Bo Nix and his ability to move the ball up and down the field, and they scored 27 points, I think is a good thing. I understand his fourth quarter wasn't great, but he totally redeemed himself in overtime. I mean, for Washington to give the Broncos the ball and tell Bo Nix, you haven't beat us the last 3 series, go beat us this time. If they go 3 and out there, all the Commanders need is a field goal, right? And the fact that Bo marched them down the field, hit Harvey, hit Troutman, and then the beautiful throw to Evan Ingram where he absolutely burned Bobby Wagner, who's been a great linebacker in this league for a long time. That was massive that Bo could do it. And once again, it was Bo in the clutch. You know, Bo's been great in fourth quarters all year. He was great in overtime against the Commanders. So, I'll take them as they come. But listen, I'd much rather talk to you today about a 27-26 win than a 10-9 win, because it was 10-9. We go up, defense bailed him out again. We're not having those conversations. So it's nice to have the script changed a little bit after the Broncos won their 9th straight.
It's interesting you should say that, because I think the optics for me are, and you and I were on Denver Sports Tonight last night, and you asked the question of the similarities like between a Bo Nix and a guy like John Elway, and just being able to perform when the lights are burning the brightest upon him. I heard Dan Orlovsky on with the guys this morning with Evan Stoke and Schlereth, and he said he's never really seen it where a guy's so frenetic to start a game. But when it means the most, it's like everything slows down for him. So the credit for that game, and I agree with you, would be a lot on Bo Nix. But then you ask the questions, were any flaws exposed in that win against a bad Washington football team? But you and I both said that they're better than most people would give them credit for. But you didn't do a lot in the fourth quarter offensively when you could have secured the game. And defensively, to your point, I think it's probably the second to worst game they've played all year defensively. And they weren't able to get the stops when they wanted. They had long drives, like where they were tired, to your point about Washington giving them the ball when it was like, dude, you tore down this defense. So were there flaws that were exposed or anything that you think is something to be worried about, or these are all fixable questions?
Well, first of all, I like Bo Nix being in the sentence with John Elway and not Tim Tebow. That's better company. There were some Tebow comparisons early in the year. And then second of all, yeah, I do think that Washington laid out a little bit of a blueprint against this Broncos defense. Two things. One, quarterbacks got to get rid of the ball right away. And that's what Marcus Mariota did many a times against this Broncos defense. What's been their greatest strength this year? The ability to sack the quarterback. And Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, basically took that away. I mean, his release time was wicked quick on almost every single throw. So you better believe other offensive coordinators these next 5 games and then the playoffs will be studying that. And then 2, they kind of did just run the ball down their throat. I believe it was 143 yards on the ground, and it was a combo. 3 different guys had 40-plus yards, including the quarterback himself. So, yeah, I mean, that scares me a little bit of, did this Commanders team expose the Broncos? Probably too strong of a word. But did they give other OCs around the league something to think about? Yeah. And so at the end of the day, that's going to be on Vance Joseph and the coaching staff to figure out, okay, how do we still sack the QB even if he's getting out this quick? Or what different schemes can we implement that if he's only looking at his first target, then go jump the route, right? Like if the guy is refusing to scan the field because he's so worried about getting sacked, boom, that's the number one target. Go get it. Go get a pick. Go get a pick 6. So I'm not nervous necessarily, but also we saw what happened last year where the defense struggled in December. So I'm hoping that was more of a one-off than a trend. And I'm actually glad that they play a pretty poor Vegas team this weekend. Hopefully Geno Smith can get them back on track.
I agree with you. I'd say I hope it's not something like where they've been on the field so much this year. Out of the 2 units, obviously they put a lot more work in to get them to this 10-2 mark. And do you put anything into the idea that there was the rust coming off the bye, the long break that they had after the big win against Kansas City? Does that play into it more? I hope it's more like something like that where they just weren't ready. Now they get rolling for a stretch run. But fatigue is a question for me at this point. You're a top 5 team in 3 and outs offensively. So that means your defense is on the field a hell of a lot more than you would prefer them to be.
Yeah, they had only played 1 game in 23 days before that Commanders game. So it's the age-old rest versus rust thing. Which one was it? And also, don't forget, Alex Singleton was coming back from cancer surgery, and Pat Surtain hadn't played in a month because of his bicep strain. So maybe a perfect storm of, yeah, you don't want to play a lot of football. That time off your feet is great, but the way the schedule set up in November was insane, right? I mean, between Thursday night and a bye, they did only have that 1 game. So I don't know if I go fatigue as much as you. I mean, I think fatigue within the game, right? Like the fourth quarter, the overtime, they were fatigued. They had been on the field a lot. Even marathon runners get fatigued. You can be in the best shape on earth, and you're going to get tired when you're doing that much cardio for 3.5 hours. So I get that part of it. But I think you're maybe onto something of when you're rolling, you want to keep playing. And the Broncos were in that rare case where they were rolling, they had to sit. Bye weeks usually come when you've lost 3 or 4, and you're like, okay, good to get away, decompress, whatever. I still like a later bye, don't get me wrong, but you raised an interesting theory for sure.
All right, if the playoffs started today, which they don't, I know how we always say that. Right now, the way it sits, and that's why this game, and you brought this up last night, this game matters this weekend. You would think, oh, it's a bad Raiders football team. Anything can happen in the NFL on any given Sunday. This is not one they want to mess around with because as it sits right now, the Patriots, if they started today, they'd be the number 1 seed. The Broncos would be the 2 seed welcoming in the 7th seed Buffalo Bills. I don't know how much you love the idea or the prospects of something like that happening. But at that point, when you get to the postseason, well, it's just you would love to have home games. And obviously, if we could map it out the way we wanted, they'd be the number 1 seed. But we've seen plenty of times in professional sports, sometimes it's just the team that's hot at the right time. Does that something like that bother you to where you've done all this work to get to 10-2? And if you slip up a little bit down the last, 4 or 5 weeks of the season, that you could put yourself in a pretty difficult situation going forward in a postseason run?
Yeah, it scares you. I mean, it scares you because if you don't win your division, you're the 5 seed or the 6 seed or the 7 seed, and your path to Super Bowl 60 is suddenly 3 road games versus 2 home games. I mean, come on. If they have 2 home games, I think more than half the town is going to pick them to go to Santa Clara. if they have 3 road games, no one's going to pick them. They'll pick them to go one and done. And the problem is the 8-4 Chargers hold the tiebreaker over you. And if they're within 1 game come week 18, guess what? That game's West. And I know, even this morning, there's some clinching scenarios out there. Broncos win their next 2, Chargers lose their next 2, Broncos take the division. It's like, guys, let's take it easy on that stuff because week 18 could very well be for the AFC West crown. So, yeah, it definitely scares me as a Broncos fan because the margin is not razor thin because you do have that 2-game lead. But all of a sudden, you drop one you're not supposed to this weekend in Vegas. Well, there goes the Patriots tiebreaker with common opponents. And if the Chargers beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football, then they now control their own destiny to win the division because they'd be within 1 game with week 18 still to come. So it might be cliche, Cello, but it's got to be all gas, no brakes. I mean, I'm not saying it takes 15-2 to get the 1 seed. I think the Patriots have 1 loss in them, either to the Bills or the Ravens. But Broncos need the mindset that it's going to take 15-2, which is insane because that would be ending the regular season on a 14-game winning streak, which is hard to wrap your mind around.
Listen, dude, even the most staunch Denver Broncos supporters, I don't think if we could have done it 100 different ways, we wouldn't have this playoff picture laying out as it currently does right now. And on the top of each conference, you'd have the Patriots who won, 4 games last year, the Bears on the other side, and the NFC. The one thing I do love about it right now, as it currently sits, is the Chiefs. They're not a part of this picture right now. And I said with you and others that until they're actually dead, I'm still going to have concern about them. So it's interesting. It'll be very fun to watch how the landscape of the NFL kind of plays out down the stretch. But I agree with you. Till you said it last night, you dropped this game to Vegas, you put yourself behind the bullet again. So it's everything matters. And I love the way that this team's kind of approaching it. Like they seem like they're really focused on that week-to-week, game-to-game type of focus to get where they want to go.
I think they definitely are. Don't get me wrong. But I also think Sean Payton's like plastering the NFL standings in front of them in team meetings. Like I got that vibe from Sean last week when he was asked about the 1 seed and he talked about, and I'm paraphrasing, but he talked about, some guys aren't aware of how all this works. So I promise you, when they're sitting in that meeting room at Broncos Park powered by Common Spirit, he got the standings pulled up and he's telling guys, we win so I do agree with you. It's day by day, week by week. But I also think that like Sean is kind of a big picture guy and he's making sure his players are aware of the big picture as well.
Well, big picture, we do this each and every week on Freshly Grated. Will, I know this is your first appearance on the show, but I'm going to have to take one from you. We do Super Bowl predictions. And at the end of the year, we're going to have Chavi put together a compilation of where we were at week by week on who we thought was going to represent each conference in Santa Clara come February. So I've been with Rams Broncos for a while. And I don't think, even though the Rams had a very surprising loss last week in Carolina to a team in Bryce Young, I think he had like 80 yards 6 days prior on Monday Night Football. Probably one of the most putrid quarterback performances ever. Goes out and shines against what everybody was saying last week. The Rams were everyone's darling last week. I'm still going to stick with them in the NFC. I'm starting to believe a little bit more in Chicago. I don't know if they're like Super Bowl worthy. And I have had the Broncos for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to stick with those 2 teams. But when we get to Santa Clara in February, Will, who's representing each conference in that game?
What's funny is you go Rams Broncos, and remember, a bunch of Avalanche fans got very upset that the Avs players were wearing Rams jerseys because Stan Kroenke owns the Rams. Can you imagine Stan Kroenke with his basketball and hockey teams chasing titles, having his football team against the Broncos? That would make for quite a juicy Super Bowl couple of weeks previewing that one. But you know what, Cello? I'm going to agree with you on the Broncos. I'm going to go a different direction in the NFC, though. I think Super Bowl 48 revenge happens this year. Give me Broncos Seahawks in Santa Clara. I think the Seahawks are going to snag the NFC West. I think their defense is elite. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. And I'm going to say Pat Surtain shuts down JSN in Super Bowl 60. And 12 years later, we can finally be redeemed for what happened in MetLife Stadium in January or February of 2014.
And it'll be our new place to be, our favorite place away from home would be Levi's Stadium, right? Let
Yeah,
me
much
go
better
out
than
to
MetLife. We'll take Levi Stadium over MetLife any day
for
of the week.
sure.
Yeah.
Let's go to our producer, Dan Chavez. Who you got as of week 13? Who's playing in the Super Bowl?
Give me Seahawks and Broncos as well. Sam Darnold just got his revenge against his old team. They took down the Vikings 26-0. Max Brosmer sacked 4 times, threw 4 picks. And the Rams go down to the Panthers, and now both of them sit at 9-3. Give me Seahawks, Broncos, and Santa Clara. And even though Will says JSN will get locked down by PS2, give me a heartbreak thriller where Broncos go down to the Seahawks in Santa Clara. Don't hate me now, but hey, that's what it's going to be, and we're going to be scratching our heads why we can't get these guys in the big game.
All righty, Chavi, we appreciate it. And we continue on with the show. We're going to shift gears a little bit, Will, too. We're going to get to what you're our guy, right? You're Hockey Will. You're the scrappy one. The Avs continue to roll. They beat the Canucks last night 3-1. McKinnon had a couple goals, right? But afterwards said it was a boring game. It was a team doing what they were trying to accomplish against the high-powered offense in the Avalanche. Let me get your thoughts on not only last night's game, but where they sit through this early part of their season.
Yeah, well, the biggest storyline last night, and we can get into the goalies and McKinnon and the game and all that, but they became the first team since the 79-80 Flyers to only have one regulation loss through 26 games. Think about that. 46 years last night, history was made at Ball Arena. Only a team that played well before I was born. I'm not trying to age you. I think before
Yes.
Had gone 26 games with one loss in regulation. I mean, that's wild. So the game itself was fine. I watched it. McKinnon, couple goals. Brock Nelson stayed hot with a goal. Scott Wedgwood did get pulled, which makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Certainly not per performance, but Jared Bednar said his back tightened up, and the Bednar quote was better safe than sorry. So I do think it was precautionary. Mackenzie Blackwood came in, didn't give up a goal. They called up Trent Miner today from the Eagles. That's definitely just an insurance policy if Wedgwood can't go on these 4 games on this road trip. But overall, I mean, micro, sure, another win. That's what the Avs do. Macro, I mean, Cello, it's like last night I grabbed my computer at 9:45 and wrote about it because I'm like, I can't ignore history, right? Like we need a story on the site. Facebook's going nuts about it, rightfully so. People are pumped. I mean, you do something this league hasn't seen in since the 70s. You kidding me? I get it's cup or bust, right? Everyone knows it's cup or bust. What happens in April, May, June, yada, yada, yada. But I don't have a time machine. You don't have a time machine. It's early December. Why don't we live in the moment and enjoy 82 really unbelievable games from this team that we're getting blessed with right now?
Well, I'm going to ask you this because where's the weakness? Last year, obviously, at this time, there was a problem with the whole goaltending room, and we know how many moves were made by McFarland and crew at the trade deadline last year, and the loss of Rantanen and the additions that they made. Tell me what you think would be like an area that they would need to improve, and if there's an area that needs to be improved, is that something? Listen, I think this team and this organization, in my history covering and following and rooting for them, they're always open to making some kind of a move at the deadline. Some more splashier than others, of course, but is there anything out there like that? Or would it be simply like role type of areas that they're trying to fill? Or, God forbid, any injury, creeps up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously injuries are the great X factor, so we'll just knock on wood and keep our fingers crossed there. But listen, the trade deadline this year is going to be nothing like last year. McFarland, Sakic, Bednar, hell, even Josh Kroenke know that they have a team that can win the whole thing and frankly should win the whole thing. So they're not going to do a lot. The only thing I'll say, if we want to live in a little bit of fantasy land on this snowy Wednesday, there is some chatter about Nazem Kadri, and the Calgary Flames are pretty darn bad. Now, I understand that the cap gets tricky, and it's not like the NFL where you can manipulate it. It's a hard cap in the NHL. But how much fun would it be if they could somehow, some way, get a package for Nazem Kadri, and you don't even ask him to be your second line center, you ask him to be your third line center, and you bump Jack Drury down to the fourth line, you keep Brock Nelson at 2C. But I think all Avs fans would agree, Nazem was the heart and soul of that Cup team. Like Cale, Nathan, they were the best players, Gabe, Val, Arturi, et cetera, but Nazem, remember, he got death threats in St. Louis and then came out and scored a hat trick. He had the brilliant Game 4 overtime goal against the Lightning where we didn't know if the puck was in the net or not. to put the Avs up 3-1 and propel them to their third cup in franchise history. I don't think it's going to happen, but you asked for something, so I'm just going to throw a name out there. How fun would it be to somehow, some way get Nazem Kadri back in the Mile High City?
Gosh, like it would be like one of those type of deals where, like, obviously when we heard Bruce Brown was coming back, we thought, is it going to be the same? He's actually made it pretty much the same as his first stint here in Denver, but that would be awesome if something like that were to happen. I don't expect them to be completely quiet at the deadline. It just won't be anything like it was last year. And now you're starting to see the fruits of the labor kind of pay off as they have a little more chemistry as a group together. You remember, I mean, that was what, late February last year, where they finally were all starting able to go, and you're kind of see them assert their dominance early this year. So I'm loving the way it's looking, man. Like if we, like, I asked the question back in August, could Denver be title town? And you say that kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, right? Like, you're not going to throw that out there. But with these three teams right now, dude, and that makes us switch gears and go over to the Denver Nuggets. And I'm just going to flat out ask you, what's wrong with the Nuggets? And especially at home where you're supposed to have the advantage above any other advantage pretty much in the league, Will.
Yeah, well, speaking of title town, not one, not two, not three. I got three parades on my mind, Cello. Three. I don't know if we'll get three. We'd take one, obviously, but could get two, could get three if the perfect storm happens. But the Nuggets are the weak link in that perfect storm at the moment. But that said, you know, I saw a lot of panic after the Mavericks lost, and I'm sitting there watching that game, and with all due respect, they're closing with Spencer Jones and Peyton Watson and Cam Johnson, and it kind of reminded me of Nikola and a bunch of guys, and that's what it was 4 or 5 years ago when it was Nikola and Will Barton and Facu Campazzo and Monte Morris, and it was like, this is the best player on earth and a bunch of dudes. And, you know, I get it. Losing 4 in a row at home is not good, but 60% of their starting lineup wasn't on the floor. Aaron Gordon's out, Christian Brown's out, Jamal Murray tweaked his ankle. So it's trendy to panic about the Nuggets, but I promise you, when they're playing a game 6 or a game 7 with the Thunder in May, no one's going to be thinking about what happened against Dallas on December 1st. They're just not. And I can chalk it up to the fact that they were injured and they were hurt. So they're still 14-6. If I had offered you that through 20 games, you would take it in a heartbeat. I'm not trying to say nothing to see here, but I'm kind of saying nothing to see here.
I would disagree a little bit. And I think prior to the season, if you would have said 14-6, everybody would have taken it. The only problem is we have to remember OKC's 20-1. The Lakers are above you in the standings now. The Rockets are above you in the standings now. And I get that there's injuries and problems that they're dealing with. But you're a better basketball team than what was, I think, like the 6-15 Mavericks when they rolled in the other night. That's a game you had a 17-point lead in. You have to win these type of games because when you get down to seeding, I don't know how much you value home court advantage in the NBA, but I hold it up as high as you can in all the professional leagues.
I get that, and you're right. You know, if they're battling for the 2 seed or the 3 seed, maybe people will look back and say, remember those 4 dumb home losses in November and December? I get all that. But at the same time, you know, they went into OKC last year, won, what was that, game 1 on the Aaron Gordon magical 3 down the stretch. And Cello, they choked game 5. I mean, they had game 5 against the Thunder. There. So, you know, they played 4 games in that building. 2 of them were Thunder blowouts, including game 7. 2 of them, the Nuggets won 1 and should have won the other. So it's not like, you know, this team feels like they can't fly across the border and go win a game down there in Oklahoma if they have to. Would I prefer a game 7 be at Ball Arena? Of course. But you mentioned the 20-1 Thunder. Guess how much control the Nuggets have over that? 0. They have no control over that. Other than the 4 times they play them this year, if the Thunder are going to win 70 games, they're going to win 70 games. There's nothing Nikola Jokic or David Adelman or Jamal Murray can do about it. So guess what? I've resigned myself to the fact the Thunder are going to be the 1 seed. And if you got to go play a Rockets team on the road, they won the NBA Cup down there a few weeks ago. I understand they have Kevin Durant, but he's getting older, not quite looking like himself. And otherwise, it's still a young team. And guess what? If you have to play the Lakers, you've owned the Lakers in the Nikola Jokic era, especially the last 5 years when he should have 5 MVPs. LeBron James is, man, he has hit a wall. Luka's special, but one special player is not going to get them over the top of the Nuggets. Even if they got to go on the road for the semifinals, I think they'll still get to the Western Conference Finals, depending on how the bracket shapes up. and then see OKC there.
Okay, we're running out of time, so we're going to go rapid fire. One, real quickly, you saw what happened with Chris Paul. Got sent home from Atlanta. We don't know what his future holds. Would you have any interest in adding a CP3 here?
No, he got sent home because he was a cancer in that locker room, right? And he didn't get along with the players, the front office. The coach refused to speak to him. That would be shades of Russell Westbrook 2.0. I do not have any interest in Chris Paul coming into this locker room and dismantling the chemistry. How about you?
Ooh, I think it was because the Clippers are all kinds of bad. I think they're 5-16 right now. I think losers of 14 of 16. He doesn't want to go out that way. I guess the reports are him and Tyronn Lue weren't even on speaking terms. I wouldn't shun it away. I mean, I would like, that's the kind of leadership. And if we're going to miss
leadership, he just got kicked off his team, Cello. Leadership,
veteran experience.
Okay. There you
type
go.
of leadership. And if he rolled into like a situation like they had in Denver, I'm not saying it's going to happen. The likelihood of it is very slim, but I wouldn't be completely opposed to it. All right, we have about 53 seconds left, and that's because we have a quota on this show that the Rockies can only be talked about so much and for so long. But they go out and they bring in Josh Burns, your guy, Paul DePodesta. Brings in Josh Burns, who's been your guy. He's been with the Dodgers. What do you think of the move?
Listen, I mean, I like hiring a guy who has championship caliber, experience, pedigree, worked under Dan O'Dowd, and I know people get worried about that, but at least he's had a little taste of the altitude in his life. I think Walker Monfort's running the show. I think he's told Dick to basically get lost, and I think Walker does hear the outside noise and the chatter and know that they needed to hire people who did not wear purple pinstripes or sit in that front office the last 15, 20 years. So I'm not saying I'm planning a fourth parade, but DePodesta, Burns, at least they're from the outside. That's all I got to say.
Here's what I find interesting. You got DePodesta, who's most famously known for Moneyball, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's out there talking the same body nonsense like they're selling jeans, like they're looking for Fabio. So he comes from that Moneyball, pinch the money, let's be tight, right? Let's be frugal. And then you got Burns, who his most recent experience is with the richest team who's just winning World Series back-to-back in the LA Dodgers. I don't know if they think it's going to mesh somewhere in the middle for the Rockies, but it's the Rockies. And, hit the quota. We're done. We're done with it, dude. It's over. We exceeded the quota.
Well, if you sell enough margaritas, you can pay players, Jello. That's just fact. That's science, my friend.
That's going to do it for Freshly Grated with Marcello Romano. Today, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Will, the scrappy one, Peterson from Denver Sports, our guy, Dan Chavez, Chavi, producing the product. It's been Freshly Grated on Denver Sports.